Do you know that 73% of customers agree that a bad restroom experience in a restaurant will impact their willingness to return? Torque Sustainable Hygiene Solutions improve operational efficiency for a better guest experience and better business.
All right, I am here with Betsy Schmandt. Betsy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's great to meet you.
All right, start off by telling us about yourself.
Sure. So I joined A&W about a year and a half ago as the COO and president. Just recently was appointed as the CEO and president. Before this, I spent about 7.5 years with Mrs. Fields. The tail end of that is their president of franchising. If you don't know, Mrs. Fields, TCBY are famous brands. So 2 great American brands. Before that, I spent about 20 years in New York City and worked for Godiva Chocolatier in marketing and innovation, and kind of got my start in the business in licensing and some entertainment brands. So a little non-traditional into the restaurant business, but food and beverage are absolutely at the core of what I love and what makes me tick. So it's wonderful to be with A&W now.
What's your first impressions after a couple of years in the restaurant business? What's your impression about it?
I love it. It's tough. I actually think it's very similar to the theater business, which is where I started. There's sort of a back of house, a front of house. There's a cast of characters that all have a role to play, and it's probably a little bit chaos on the backside, hopefully not too much, but there can be, but it's how do you manage that and put together a product that is ultimately there to entertain and satisfy your guests or the audience. So there's a lot of parallels to kind of what my background is and how we bring that forward in the restaurant business. So, and luckily you get to eat instead of just sit and watch a play for 2 hours. So it's got that going for it.
Right. That's a great thing about the restaurant business. But you are the first person I think I've ever heard compare the restaurant business to the theater business. But that's a fantastic comparison.
Yeah, they're very similar. They really are. I mean, at the end of the day, you do a lot of work before your audience shows up, and you hope that they enjoy the meal or the show, whatever it is, at the end of the day. And so it should have theater, I think, is one of the things that, we talk about more and more within our 4 walls of, it's not just, throw a burger on a plate and it's there only to create, satisfy a food craving. How do you bring theater to it? How do you bring enjoyment and entertainment and bring that out of, your guests out of their everyday? They come to restaurants not just because they need to eat. They can do that at home. They come to a restaurant to have service and have hospitality and be shown something different and given something different than they wouldn't normally get at home. So I think that theater becomes important. And for us, a lot of that's with our frosty mug. We're so well known for our root beer, and we serve it in a frosty mug. And we think that elevates that experience besides just getting it in a plastic or paper cup to go. It brings an elevated experience to it. And we think the product shows for itself, and that's what people come to A&W for so many times.
Right. That's a perfect comparison to me, because at the end of the day, even if you're just going through the drive-through for a cup of coffee, you really want you just want a little indulgence or a little break or whatever from your day, and you want something out of the experience.
That's right.
You go to a restaurant and you're paying. You are paying something of a premium for that experience, and then you want something from it. And today especially, consumers are not tolerant of not getting that experience. That's for right. that extra something for their visit, and they are responding by reducing visits to those concepts that don't necessarily do that. So it's a really important point, I think, to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really what makes, I think, the A&W experience special in so many ways. I mean, we are the original fast food restaurant, the first restaurant chain to franchise back in 1925. We started in 1919. We've been bringing that hospitality forward for now 106 years. And, what started with a small roadside stand of root beer and ultimately evolved into drive-ins, which is what people often think of when they think of A&W. And it was, mostly girls on roller skates and bringing trays and bringing that little bit of entertainment that they weren't getting at your average restaurant. And so, our brand has so much of that heritage. And of course, now we have drive-throughs and all of that is, a lot of QSRs do. But I think that heritage, and a good number of our restaurants still do that. And people love that. And, because it just sets us apart from so many of our competitors.
Yeah. I remember when it was a drive-in, and I'm from Minnesota.
Okay.
And we had gone to a county fair in Ramsey County, Minnesota. And I was very young, and I won a real easy to win carnival game. Obviously, had to been easy to win for me to win it because I am terrible at carnival games.
Right.
Period. And I won a necklace with my name on it. And then after the county fair, we went to A&W and got some ice cream, and because it was relatively nearby, and I was very excited. I remember this.
Sure.
And the bear was there.
Okay.
And looked at me and said, and called me by my name. Hey, Jonathan. And I'm like, how did you know my name? And I forgot that. Anyway, that was my little A&W memory from when I was a kid.
That's great.
But you've got a lot of. I mean, the thing is, like, how do you take? Is there any pressure when you're taking over like a heritage brand like this? Because it's been around a long time.
It has been around a long time, 106 years. I think it's interesting because, as you just mentioned, everybody has an A&W story. So much of many people's childhood was, I remember going with my grandparents. I had my first date there. I was a car hop there. We hear those stories all the time. And I mean, even on social, I see people come back to the, whatever town. We love you. We want more. So people really have this connection to the brand that dates way back. And I think that is sort of the question and the rub of how do you honor that heritage, but continue to innovate and move the brand into the future and be current for today's consumers. So we've been calling that nostalgia. We didn't make it up. A lot of people have that, but I think it is really relevant for our brand of are you new and you have this nostalgic. And I think for us, a lot of it is really how do we bring that drive-in experience into today when most people honestly aren't that interested in a drive-in right now. They want to drive through, they want to keep moving, but there is something I think about that hospitality that people are still craving. It's not just kiosks and online. People do like to be served and do like to feel welcome and have that really sense of place, of small town hospitality. And I think that's really where A&W excels. Is that hospitality piece. We bring trays to the guests, we pour the root beer, we do a number of things to really make sure people feel welcome and have that old-fashioned, if you will, hospitality.
Mm-hmm. So how do you bring that? Like, what's the plan to bring that hospitality into your locations?
Yeah, well, I think it really starts with, how we greet people in the restaurant or, if they're through the drive-through, how do we take their order in a kind and welcoming and inclusive way? How do we, we do a lot of serving at the table as well. So there's still that tray and service, but it is really bringing that feeling to the restaurant. I mean, in that through store design, it's through the way we craft our packaging. We've just done a whole redesign of our packaging so that people have that connection to Rudy. You mentioned our great root beer. I think there's that piece of it too that connects people to the heritage and makes them feel like this is a fun place to be. It's comfortable. They know what they're doing. They've been here a long time, and all of those things are true.
Mm-hmm. So how many locations are you at right now?
So in total, the company is 850 restaurants. About half of those are here in the U.S., so just shy of 450. And about half of those are our base brand restaurants. The other half is we share in co-brand with KFC and Long John Silver's.
Mm-hmm. And any plans for the co-branded locations? Are they still going okay?
So they are going okay. It is not our strategy to continue that, however. So we inherited a lot of those during our years at pre-2011 when we were partnered up with Yum Brands. So, strategically, we both are kind of looking to go our separate ways and create more base brands rather than the co-brands. But there are places where it does work well for us, and, we're happy to have them as long as they want to, keep serving A&W.
Yeah. Is that the operator's decision, or how does that work?
It is a little bit of both, honestly. I mean, they have a license for however long, and then at that point, we decide if it makes sense to continue to go forward for a significant piece of their business. If not, probably makes sense to part ways and find a place for A&W in that market that's separate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you have any drive-ins left, or are those?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we do. We have over 50, we call them car hops. So we have that kind of coffee shop car hop, about 50 of our 230-ish restaurants. So a good number, 20-25% are still drive-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're not opening anymore, though, are you, or no?
No, we haven't been. It does take a lot of space. It does slow down the model a little bit. So it's not been something we've been pursuing. We love the ones that are there. We still have, I think the oldest one in our system is from 1937, I want to say. That's in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. That's still going strong. Yeah, so the ones that are there are well loved in their communities, and we love having them. It does create such a unique experience for people in those communities.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the operator must love it, though. Like it's always a little tough to, I think, especially in the upper Midwest, because it's cold up there.
It is cold up there.
And I know that it's. I mean, the operators that I've known that have had drive-ins up there, I mean, I live in the Twin Cities, and the operators that I know that have had them up there just like it's great for a few months out of the year, and then the rest of it is really, really hard.
It does make it more of a challenge for sure. And so, a number of them are seasonal restaurants. They open around, call it May 1st. So they're just opening their doors now as everything's thawing out in the upper Midwest. And we'll run through sometimes October. Depends on how the weather goes. They make a game time call sometimes of how far into the season they're going to go. That one in Fond du Lac, I think, closes in November and December, and then reopens early in the year. They sell Christmas trees during that time. So sort of they figured it out how to stay open and service the community during those cold months as you get to the holidays.
Yeah, that's that kind of fits with the upper Midwest small town
right. It does.
Thing where it's just really popular for especially during the warm months, and then they sell Christmas trees. That checks out.
It checks, right?
Yeah,
checks, right.
Yeah. So, talk about what you guys are doing on the technology front. Is that a major area of focus for you right now, or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started a new POS rollout about 2.5, 3 years ago to really get the whole system on one POS system. So that's been a major initiative of ours. We're working with PAR Data Central. We started that really in earnest about 2 years ago, so just before I got there. And that is really the backbone of our tech stack. And so we've been adding on online ordering and kiosks to that. We've been testing tableside ordering for the last couple of months with about 20 restaurants. So we're looking to add that piece as well. So we are really trying to figure out different ways of how technology can help first of all, enhance the guest experience, but also give us the data that we need to make better informed decisions. So that's been a huge initiative. We are not all the way there, but we're getting closer every day and getting operators on that. And it's really been a big shift in the way that we are managing the business. And our operators have been really pleased with having a harmonized central location and being able to have better menu management and that sort of thing. So we've been really pushing on that hard, actually.
Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the single POS is sort of the foundation for all of that effort? It
is. And, it certainly feels like a late in game kind of thing for us to be doing that. But again, one of the really unique things of this system at 106 years old is there's a lot of permutations of restaurant types, of the POS systems, things like that. So, it's been a bit of an effort to get everybody on one centralized system, but it's critical for managing the business going forward.
Right. Well, you are certainly not even close to the first brand that have had to do that.
Yeah.
And probably not really even the only brand still trying to do that today. I mean, and the thing, like POS systems, historically, I think the restaurant industry, I think just really over the last few years has adapted into new technology and stuff like that. And it's just made the POS system a lot more critical than, it's always been obviously critical because you got to take money from customers.
Right.
But its functionality is much more, there's much more involved on it today. So it's just an interesting, that drive, a lot of big chains, I think, have had to do the same thing.
Yeah, and it's not inexpensive. It is a huge lift for the operator of putting it in and getting it set up and training their staff and all of that. But honestly, within a day, they get it. And, usually the folks who are on the front line get it faster than the operator. They are very adept to using technology. And it's really been a pretty seamless progression for us, I would say. And it really does set us up for how do we better make decisions, whether that's, we launched an LTO and 2 weeks in, holy cow, it's blowing the doors off. We need to bring in more ingredients so that we can continue to have this for the full sales event, which happened last year, which was wonderful. It's sort of like, great, okay, we now know what's going on in the field without just anecdotal. We can make really smart decisions to move that forward, to, okay, now we have tableside ordering. Consumers love it. We're seeing that adoption happening faster and faster. People like to take their time and sit down and talk it over with their family and friends and not just be standing there staring at the menu and kind of feeling more anxious of, they're waiting on me. Mm-hmm. And so we've really seen our customers really like it as well as our operators. So, it's definitely critical for our business.
Right. Any early learnings? I imagine you're seeing some higher average check because there's not somebody behind them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We see it on online ordering as well as tableside, as well as our kiosks. All have probably about a 50% plus lift on check average versus just going through the counter or through the drive-through. So there is absolutely something there. We thought originally maybe it was just higher prices online ordering. If you're going through the DoorDashes of the world, tend to have a higher pricing, but it's the same price when you go through our app or if you're sitting in the restaurant on tableside or through the kiosk, and they're very similar from what the average check volume is. So we're seeing people just ordering more, taking their time, adding on the dessert or adding on an extra side. So it's, I think, really speaks to the consumer wanting to take their time and get it right and not feeling bad about ordering the large side of curds or whatever they've decided to upgrade to.
Right, yeah. I imagine your franchisees, on back to the POS system a little bit, is I imagine like the franchisees really want to see the brand go into this particular direction, where as a brand you are adding mobile ordering and you are testing things like tableside service and kiosks and things like that, because I think franchisees just want to know what kind of return they're getting on stuff like that. That at the end of the day, if you tell them you're going to make money doing this, they'll be fine.
Right. It's true. And we've had to show them that business case of when you put in this system and you do the online ordering and you've got kiosks, there is a return. It pays for itself easily within the first year. And then because you're opening up a whole nother ordering channel with online ordering. And it's not to say they can't do that on their own, but having that app, having that visibility, that seamlessness, allowing us to help support them from a marketing standpoint really does drive consumers to their restaurants so that they're seeing that return. So those who move over don't regret it. Some of them take a little longer to come along and feel that that's going to pay back. But once they're on it, absolutely, they're loving it and seeing those higher sales.
Right. Now, what's the general size of a typical, how many stores a typical franchisee operate?
Well, that's a great question. We have a lot of single restaurant operators. The largest in our chain is at about 13 restaurants, so not very big, honestly. We have a lot of onesie twosies, so we cater to individual operators, really.
I tend to like it. Those of you listening to the podcast have heard me talk about this before, probably very recently, which is, I do like it. If the more operators are in their stores, to me, that's just infinitely better. And I know there's sometimes a challenge with, especially things like a POS system. If you got one, a single unit or 2-unit operator, especially in a legacy brand where, they don't necessarily, they need that return. They need that return because, it's a big expense for a small operator.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, ultimately to me, what franchising is about is that operators being in their store and running a really good restaurant. I've kind of come along to that side after a long time covering the business because I just think it's just kind of what franchising is about.
Right. It is, and I think it's what the restaurant business is about, is who is the face of your restaurant and who is really there making sure that you are really providing that top quality experience for the guests. And nobody cares more about that than the person who owns the restaurant, right? I mean, that it's their investment. They're the number one stakeholder of that location. And so they are really going to make sure that things are at the top level. So we like that we have, onesie twosie operators, and we truly see that those who are operating in their restaurants have the best return, that they see the year-over-year growth and are really maximizing their sales potential and their profitability. So it is not a set it and forget it kind of business. Restaurants take a lot of care in feeding, and those owner-operators, really are the backbone, making sure that happens in their restaurant every day.
All right. What are you doing on the menu?
What are we doing? Okay, all kinds of fun things on our menu. So, we are really known for our burgers and floats. We have a tagline, burgers, floats, and then some, because there is more to us than that. Obviously, chicken's a big piece of our menu. Hot dogs are a piece of our menu. But we really are innovating against premium burgers, our premium hand-breaded chicken tenders. We're coming out with a new line of beverages that are based on our root beer, which are really exciting. I'm not quite ready to talk about it, but next spring we've got a really exciting item that we're going to be launching in our premium sides. So let's see, right now we are featuring our barbecue bacon crunch burger, which is a fan favorite we've had for a couple of years. We're coming out with chicken and waffles this fall, so that'll be a brand new item for us that we're excited about. We'll have dill pickle ranch curds in the fall, which will be in the winter time period, which will be a new item for us. Cheese curds have been big for us for a bunch of years. We've had sriracha cheese curds as a fan favorite year after year. So these dill pickle ranch, which has been a big trend lately with the pickles, is something that we're really excited to see how our consumers react to that, along with the waffles. So a lot of fun things ahead. We are going to be market testing in the Green Bay market a new chicken sandwich. So we are entering the chicken sandwich wars, if you will, and excited about that. This chicken sandwich is killer. And so I know our fans are going to love that. So really looking forward to that launch and hopefully seeing that come back next year. So we've got a couple of exciting things in the hopper. Yeah.
The beverage thing is really interesting. And I think that's a source of an underappreciated source of innovation in the restaurant space and potential source of occasions for restaurants if you can get it right. And if you wanted a prediction out of me, this is going to be the area where you're going to see the most activity in the restaurant industry over the next 5 to 10 years is just on beverages inside the restaurant.
Yeah.
Beverage focused restaurants, sure, but more restaurants just getting on board, because I think it's a source of occasion, and younger consumers want something more out of their beverages.
They do, and we really see ourselves as the original handcrafted beverage. 1919 root beer. Our root beer is still made fresh in store, so we have all of this equity around A&W root beer. People think about us, first root beer floats very quickly thereafter, and then restaurant. We really own that root beer mindset. And so now it's how do we continue to grow that with our consumers and make sure that we're relevant for younger consumers, and that afternoon day part is something that we're really looking to go after. And I think what we've been really prototyping is delicious, and it's interesting, and it's completely ownable for A&W. So I'm super excited about it, and would love to tell you more once we've got it, green lit, but it's pretty close.
Absolutely. One last thing before we end, I have to make my regular plea to anybody from A&W. One of the best desserts I've ever had at a fast food restaurant was at an A&W. It was an on-trad unit near Grand Rapids, Minnesota, years ago. It was a peanut butter shake. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. I would eat that until I was dead. And every single time I'm in A&W, I look for it and then never have it. So that's my regular plea to make that part of the regular menu.
Okay, I appreciate that. I am a peanut butter fan myself, and anytime peanut butter ice cream's on the menu, I'm all about that too. So I hear you, and I'll see what I can do about that.
All right, Betsy, this was fantastic. Really appreciate you joining me this week on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
And that should do it for this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, which was edited, as always, by Spoons with some special assistance from our friends at Informa. Artwork by Nico Hines. You may find this and other episodes of the podcast on our website at www.restaurantbusinessonline.com/article/deeper-dive. But please subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm Jonathan Mays, your host, podcast producer, and the editor-in-chief of Restaurant Business. Thank you for listening.
Do you know that 73% of customers agree that a bad restroom experience in a restaurant will impact their willingness to return? Torque Sustainable Hygiene Solutions improve operational efficiency for a better guest experience and better business.